It was in the silent scream of snow I realized I was destined to build my kingdom from the lonely coldness warm enough to freeze. And there I surrounded the bland world of ice with the color in my eyes. There I danced with the lords and ladies of that solstice and saw I was destined to be alone in the glaciered world surrounding me, be but the master of color and mind. For I was a king amongst kingdoms that do soften, a lord amongst none, who were but seen in my eyes alone. My world was frozen, and soon it relented there in the spring. I was left holding the dripping, wet remnants of my kingdom, destined again to be alone. Yes, in the warmth of that dreaded springtime I can turn, see past the color inside my own eyes, and find in the empty whites the globes of color resting in my tired sockets. I am destined to be alone again, running away from the world of that vernal equinox to find the silent scream, to be warm enough again to freeze. And I was born on a Wednesday, a cold February night, the fourth child of a young couple in Denver, Colorado.
Where are you going, my little one, little one? Where are you going?
Like the tendrils of some gentle shoot, they reach up and dance for the sky. They sing a dry song, swaying, touching my legs. A trail behind me untouched before, almost to see yet broken by the gray of stones forgotten by some glacial surge of winter past. The ripple of sound, red wing calling, place of silence filled with endless song, unknown, unheard, abundantly swelling, here now, tomorrow gone. A dry whisper touches my cheek, upon the hand unseen rides white clouds of cotton. I was fortunate as a child. I had the opportunity to grow up in wonderful places. One place, of course, was San Jose, California, where we lived for a short time until 1976. Then my family packed up and moved and bought the hotel that my grandparents had been running since the 1960s. It was a place called Rainbow Cottages. Rainbow Cottages was located in the Yampa Valley in a town called Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And there in Steamboat, I discovered my love of the mountains and the streams, the fields and the snow. The poem written at the beginning of this particular video was one that I had written in memory of my childhood. For as a young boy, I used to pretend that the mountains of snow that surrounded the city of Steamboat were great walls, and that inside of those great walls was my fortress. And in my fortress there existed my kingdom. And my kingdom was made up of lords and ladies, but of course it was all snow and white. But I loved those winters when I could climb to the tops of those mountains of snow, look out upon my kingdoms, and create in the void of whiteness the colors of the imagination painted in the back of my mind. I had great friends, not many: Fred Conlon, Chester Betker, Damon Garn, Mark Skolmel, Chris Roberts, John Goldie, a few others here and there. Mostly, though, I found that as a child I played alone. My summer days were occupied with me riding my bike as if I was riding a magnificent stallion into war, or I would take my toy pistol and pretend to be a cop. I would spend hours and hours and hours studying the ants that lived in the ground, watching the birds that flew in the sky. It was a great childhood, filled with endless summer nights, long winter's days, snow, sun. It was pretty darn glorious. It was in seminary that I found my absolute great passion for learning. I discovered there with like-minded men who were also passionate about learning how much I enjoyed it. And I fell greatly in love with knowledge and the power that knowledge gave me. Not power over anyone else but myself. And in that knowledge I discovered great freedom. Freedom from my own upbringing, freedom from the biases and tribulations of a youth seeped in Catholicism and the ideals of the Catholic Church. I also found in the seminary love. For the first time I fell in love. Many times over, actually, not just once. Boys, of course, except for one exception, which we'll cover later in this video. But I loved deeply, passionately, and longingly. This poem is inspired by one of those great loves. Just lay beside me. In the morning steering we rise. You are beside me, filling my eyes. A gentle kiss and impassioned embrace. Hold me calmly, smoothing my face. Just lay beside me, your fair visage to know. Love there between us, carrying us in tow. The world waking rises and we remain sleeping as it goes by us. Just lay there beside me. Don't rush. Don't hurry. Please, don't go. In this calm dawn, let us remain. For when we do, it is there we shall feel no more pain.
The house of the
these two mysterious people. How strange it is now to look back on them when they were my age or younger. New parents, raising kids, much like myself, not knowing what the hell they were doing. And yet over all these years, we've grown closer and closer, and they've quite become my best friends. Wise, loving people.
This is your father. Am I speaking slowly enough? So I know you're in California, but I was wondering how things are going. We have our new phones, but I have not activated them yet. I wanted to talk to you first. So give me a call when you get a chance. Love you. Bye. Good morning, Thomas. This is your dad. I saw on my phone where you called. I think I was downstairs getting ready for the day or whatever I do in the morning. So anyway, sorry I missed your call. I went to the dentist yesterday, got my new teeth. They certainly look better than those broken ones I had in there. So that's very nice. So hope you're having a good day today, and talk to you soon. Love you. Bye-bye. Hi, Thomas. This is your dad. I was just trying to call you from the phone in the car, and apparently I'm not having any luck here. So I was just trying to check on you and Edward, if you're okay, if he's there, and what's going on. So if you get a chance, give us a call. Bye. Love you. Good morning, Thomas. I think I must have been in the bathroom when you called before. I was brushing my teeth or whatever I do in there. But anyway, got your message. Give us a call when you get a chance. Love you. Bye. Hi there, Thomas. This is your dad. And I'm speaking very slowly, but I think you have my number. So anyway, we are back in Georgia. We left the mountains a little early. But anyway, it's a long story. Here we are. Hope you're okay, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay? Bye.
Hi, Thomas. This is your mother, and I know you called me this evening, and we were just eating our supper. Anyway, I just wanted to call you back and thank you for thinking of me, and everything's going well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Thomas, this is Mom, and it's 7 o'clock our time, and just calling to check on you. Haven't heard from you for a while. We're used to you calling about every day, so hope everything's okay, and give me a call back whenever you can, 678-416-5801. Love you, Thomas. Bye.
And always, always, always call them back. Love you too, Mom. Love you too, Dad.
The following poem I wrote not long after I lived in Rome. It was arriving in Rome after my college experience almost immediately that I knew I was making a terrible mistake, not just in going to Rome, but in continuing my studies of priesthood. But at this point in my life, I didn't know what else to do, where to go, who to turn to, how to question the things that I doubted. And so I wrote this poem, and it's continued to be relevant in lots of places, in lots of ways. Through the gate I passed, and as I went along, I realized with a sense of dread, this was not the place for me. An ancient city above and below me, a people long gone, yet around me still. My eyes wept from the smoke of a burned, buried thing from so long ago. The stone beneath my feet, hoping to catch me, throw me down. Yet as my hands outstretched before me, reaching to catch me, grab only decaying stone. A fountain laughs there, but upon my lips fall only an ash of a consumed branch caught in the flame of a fire so cold it chills me to the bone. Through the gate I passed, and as I went along I realized with a sense of dread, this was not the place for me. There are some of you that know this story, but many of you perhaps do not. But when I was in the seminary, just before I was to be ordained, I met a girl. And I fell in love with that girl, and she fell in love with me. Of course, we met at a church function. And it was upon our first meeting that we immediately knew we were kindred spirits. And as we got to know one another, we grew closer and closer. And of course, as we do, she and I fell in love. And we would sneak glances at one another. Oftentimes, while I was conducting a service at the church, I would see her sitting in the pew, and our eyes would meet, and smiles would dance on our faces. Perhaps not on our lips, but certainly in our souls. And as we grew closer and closer, we would sneak away from the church, and we would dance in the moonlight and drink wine by the lake. We would sing, be silly. She'd buy me gifts of Trix, the kids' cereal. Yes, I have a softness for kids' cereals. Of course, this made me question everything. And she and I discussed me leaving the priesthood so that we might be together. But of course I had another secret. Not only was I to be ordained a priest, but I was gay. And as much as I could love her, I did. I truly did. But I knew in my heart of hearts that I would betray that love. And so I broke her heart. I broke my heart. And this all happened just before I was to be ordained, in fact. But that heartbreak still stays with me, and I think of her to this day. I wrote a poem some years ago about it, and I'd like to share that now. She danced like a small child, caught up in abandon, lost in some nameless tune. Like a prisoner, I was captured by her eyes. This fair thing, lilting, came into my joy, and almost too soon I knew that in her I was happy to be lost. Her spirit so strong took me in tow, and then upon those soft notes unknown we danced. The wonder that so fair a woman existed soon crept upon me, and wondering, I knew it was she I so longed to possess. Sadly, the tune seemed to slow, and the music was gone. Yet then we hummed ourselves, and the dancing would not cease. But along the way one of us quit humming. Me, or perhaps it was she. I took her hand. I pressed my lips upon it, and then she was gone. Yet sometimes the music still plays. and I wish it were our song.
You know, it's strange. Even I have a hard time at this point in life fathoming that I went on that journey where I promised to a bishop obedience and celibacy, knowing full well that neither one of those things were within my grasp. But there I was. And sometimes in those moments I wondered, maybe I would find that obedience. Maybe somewhere in my doubt and in my lack of faith, I would find it. But I didn't. I got farther and farther away from it, the more and more I saw of people's religion. How their faith would take them to places, do things that decent people wouldn't do. But anyway, I was one of those people doing things I shouldn't be doing. I was playing God, myself godless. I was dressing up, fantasizing that I was a great wizard, that it was I that people looked up to. And ultimately, I discovered how very, very empty that would be for me for the rest of my life. How very, very empty. And then, just like that, it all changes. I stopped being a priest. I ended it. That was pretty tough. And I found myself in a new relationship with another person almost immediately. And that was pretty tough too. But you know, somehow in the midst of all those things that we end, we find new beginnings. And it was in that place where, with those new beginnings, I continue to begin again and again and again. Sometimes I feel like a huge mountain, and as time goes on, and winds of change blow over me, little bits of me are lifted up and carried off. The sand and rocks and I grow smaller, smaller and smaller. But now I'm spread all over. The sands and rocks are like memories that I give away. Maybe one day they'll all be collected together, and perhaps then I shall be a mountain again.
This is a place where I don't feel alone. This is a place where I feel at home. And I built a home for you, for me, until it disappeared from me, from you. And now it's time to leave and turn to dust. Out in the garden where we planted the seeds, there is a tree as old as me. Branches were sown by the color of green, ground out a rose and past his knees. By the cracks of the skin, I climb to the top. I climb the tree to see the world. And the gust came around to blow me down. I held on as tightly as you held on to me. I held on as tightly as you held on to me.
The only thing of importance when we depart will be the traces of love we have left behind.
I'm a poor, wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe. Yet there's no toil, no sweat or danger in that world to which I go. I'm going home to see my loved ones. I'm going home, no more to roam. I'm just a poor, wayfaring stranger, going home, just going home. Oh, I'm a poor, wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe. Yet there's no toil, no sweat or danger in that world to which I go. I'm going home to see my loved ones. I'm going home, no more to roam. I'm just a poor, wayfaring stranger.
It was in the silent scream of snow I realized I was destined to build my kingdom, from the lonely coldness warm enough to freeze. And there I surrounded the bland world of ice with the color in my eyes. There I danced with the lords and ladies of that solstice, and saw I was destined to be alone in the glaciered world surrounding me, be but the master of color and mind. For I was a king amongst kingdoms that do soften, a lord amongst none, who were but seen in my eyes alone. My world was frozen, and soon it relented there in the spring. I was left holding the dripping, wet remnants of my kingdom, destined again to be alone. Yes, in the warmth of that dreaded springtime I can turn, see past the color inside my own eyes, and find in the empty whites the globes of color resting in my tired sockets. I am destined to be alone again, running away from the world of that vernal equinox to find the silent scream, to be warm enough again to freeze.
There it is, that reminder. Like a puff of wind against my neck, hairs standing on end. And there it is again, a reminder that all of this, living, love, life, they fade away. And I get caught up in those moments, when it seems like all of these things will last forever. The childhood fantasy that somehow, some way, all of this, the laughter, the tears, the exhilaration of risks, the pain of loss, the first kiss, the second, the millionth kiss will last. As an Irish Catholic, I am fascinated and talk a lot about death. Not seeking it, of course, but it's there all the same. And I feel that I walk with her. Death, her bony fingers run through my hair, and her cold hand pressed up against my warm skin. And sometimes I wonder about the billions of other worlds that have spun around their own stars, and the lives that must have dwelt there. I dream about other boys who, like me, stared into the endless sky across all those millions of years, looking at stars that no longer burn or that have consumed their own children, those planets, as those stars swell into non-existence. I think of all the other boys who played and danced and sang on this, the third rock from our star, the sun. Those boys whose bones are now dust, mingled perhaps even into the air that expands my own lungs to express these words. You know, for hundreds of millions of years, I have not existed, and for hundreds of millions and billions more, I shall cease to be. And there is no loss in not existing, and so too no sorrow in knowing that my tomorrows too shall end. In this nearly incomprehensible mystery of who I was not and who I shall not be, there is comfort. For as I did not suffer pre-existence, then too I shall not suffer post. Death for me is not a complement to life, but rather the frame of how we live, surrounding us with voids of insignificance, so that moments, those proverbial blinks of an eye, when we see, when we hear, when we feel, our life glows brightly. Our lives in their infinite limitness gain meaning because the very reality of their brief flare of existence is a precious moment known for less than a second and experienced by so few. Living well, then, what is that? How does one reconcile one's complete flash of reality in such complete and utter insignificance? And then it is perhaps in asking the question that we shall arrive at the answer. If we are but flashes of light, no more relevant than drops of rain in the bottomless wells of time, then perhaps it is the knowledge of this where we find meaning. For that which can be dreamed into forever, that is the amount of time a raindrop exists before it splashes into nothingness. That time suspended from origin to oblivion is the point. Knowing as we fall is the meaning of life. And so death, her ever-smiling face, falls through the sky with us. She was born in the rain with us, and as we are washed away into the well of eternity, she sails there with us too.